So welcome back, guys. As you know, my name is John Aramillo. So I would like you to continue with these topics. First of all, I would like to mention that this topic was talk about that was already talk, right? I already talked about this topic about managing the classroom, right? So I would like you to give some feedbacks to review what I already teach, right? So that about managing the classroom, guys, the subtopics of this was classroom management, the teacher in the classroom, using the voice, talking to students, right? So about about these two topics that I am going to interview because as I mentioned to you before, I already talked about this, so I'm not going to explain you at all. I'm just going to the interview to review sorry to review or to give you a feedback in order to to practice more these concepts, right? So about the classroom management, guys, you know the classroom management, if we want to manage a classroom effectively, we have to be able to handle a range of variables, right? This includes how the classroom space are organized, whether the students are working on their own groups or how we organize the classroom time. We also need, guys, to consider how we appear to the students, how we use our most valued asset, our voice, the way we talk to the students, the way we express to the students, right? Who talks most in the lesson, right? If I as a teacher talks more to the students or the students talks more than the teacher. So those are some aspects that you have to take into account when you are developing a class. So, guys, according to this concept, the teacher in the classroom, guys, we have to take into account that our physical presence can play a large part in our management of the classroom environment, and it is not just appearance either, right? The way we move and stand, the degree to which we are physically demonstrative can have a clear effect on the management of the class. So, most importantly, the way we are able to respond to what happens in class, and the degree to which we are aware of what is going on often marks the difference between successful teaching and less satisfactory lessons. So this main topic, the teacher in the classroom, has some subtopics that are proximity, that are appropriacy, that are movement, and awareness, right? So according to these subtopics, guys, according to these subtopics, that I'm going to explain you. I hope that, or I guess that you already know about this, but I am going to review, right? So about the proximity, guys, teachers teachers need to consider how close they should be to the students, right? They are working with students, so they have to be comfortable of the development of the class. Some students are uncomfortable if their teacher stands or sits close to them, you know. But for others, the distance is a sign of coldness. So, as a teacher, you have to be conscious, aware of how close you are to your students. So You should take this into account when assessing your students' reactions and should, if necessary, modify the behavior, right? So about also the appropriacy, deciding how close to the student you should be when you work with them is a matter of appropriacy. So is the general way, is the general way which teachers see or study in classrooms, many teachers create an extremely friendly atmosphere by crushing down when they work with students in pairs. In this way, they are at the same level as their seat students. However, some students find this informally worrying, but some teachers are even happy to sit on the floor. And in certain situations, this may be appropriate. So, as teacher, you have to be conscious how is the correct way to develop your class with the students, how close you are to the students, how far you are to them, or how you sit, where you sit. Those are important aspects that you have to take into account. Now about the movement, right? Some teachers tend to spend most of their class time in one place, in front or back to the class. So that's an important aspect that you have to take into account because you have to be aware, you should be aware, or you must be aware that not all students like at all a teacher who are standing all the time in one place, in front, in back, or sides, or middle. Um, you know that students have different likes, and nowadays you know that a teacher who try to walk around, to interact with others, is a better teacher than the teacher that stand in one place, right? So about the awareness, guys, that awareness means the assessing what the students have say in the responding appropriately, according to the wider Mitchell Lewis, a colleague of this, Peter put this perfectly when he said that the teacher's primary responsibility is responsibility. This means being able to perceive the success or failure of what is taking place in the classroom. So the teacher have as teachers we have to be conscious. You have to be aware about the development of the class, the learning process of the students. So if students are feeling like they are not understanding or they not comprehend the main topic of the class, the main idea that we want to develop. We have to be conscious about that, and we have to take into account different strategies in order to engage the students, in order to make them comprehend the class, right? So now about the using the voice, guys. Um, Perhaps our most important instrument as teachers is our voice. You know, so how we speak and what our voice sounds like have a crucial impact on classes. Well, so I have, according to what I mentioned to you, we have some subtopics about using the voice. That is the main topic, and the subtopics are audibility, variety, conservation, right? So those two topics try to or tend to speak about this main topic that is using the voice, and it is more like how a teacher should speak to the students, how is a good way to talk, a good way to respond to your students. Those are basically some strategies that you have to take into account. So here we have I have a question, and it says like, perhaps our most important instrument as teacher is our voice. I mentioned to you before. So how we speak and how our voice sounds like have a crucial impact on classes. So according to this statement, what is more appropriate in the classroom? So there are, as you can see here, there are three options, right? So the first one is teacher should in order to be audible, or the teacher should speak in a loud tone of voice to be heard more comfortable, or they must be sure that the students at the back of the class can hear them just as well as those in the front. So the correct answer, of course, is the third one. They must be sure that the students at the back of the class can hear them just as well as those at the front, guys. So it is obviously the third one is the correct answer, because as teacher you have to be sure that all your students are hearing you, are listening to you in a good way, right? As the students that are in the front, as also the students that are in the back. So that is a good way in order to use your voice in a correct way, right, guys? So about talking to the students and giving instructions, uh, the way the teacher talk to the students, the manner in which they interact with them, is one of the crucial teacher skills, as I mentioned to you before. But it does not demand technical expertise, right? Um, you know that teachers have a similarity with parents because um, you know parents, when they talk to their young children, they use more exaggerated tones of voice and speak with less complex grammatical structures than they would if they were talking to students. So the vocabulary is generally more restricted, right? More restricted, they make more frequent attempts to establish eye contact, and they use other forms of physical contact. They generally do these things unconsciously. So, so guys, the way in we give instruction as teachers is the manner, or is the way in which our students feel. I mean, is if I as a teacher give instruction in a bad way, like I sound so rude or sound so like screaming, like I'm louding out a lot. So our students are going to feel scared. Our students are going to feel not comfortable at all. So we have to take into account those aspects, and we have to be careful with that in order to engage on the students and to make them feel comfortable, right? So now I'm going to let you with my classmate, my colleague Philippe, that I'm going to explain you more about other topics about this. So that's all, guys. I hope you enjoyed and you practice more what I already taught you before.
Thank you, Johan, for the explanation about those topics. And well, I'm gonna continue explaining some other topics about this managing the classroom main topic. And we're gonna start with student talk and teacher talk. So, this chapter talks about the amount of time that the teacher or the student has to talk with the class. So, the chapter talks about that the student is the one that must have the primary voice in the classroom because this is a language class, right? And we need to teach the language, and we cannot achieve anything if we do not practice. So it is very important for the students to be the main talkers, let's say, of the class. Okay, they have to have the most time available in order to speak and to express themselves. However, of course, we need to control their talking because they're still learning, and we need to correct their outbound language. However, the teacher also has a very important role, and he has to talk. So even though the teacher is kind of the main figure or is like the leader of the classroom, he has to limit himself because if no, the class can become like a kind of, I don't know, presentation and the students can get bored of it. But he also needs to explain some things, some topics. He has to give an example of how to talk. So what we have to do is find that balance where we can allow the students to talk as much as they can, but that we still talking and giving them the information that they need. So that's about teacher talk and student talk. The next topic is using the first language in English classes. And this has always been like a discussion around this. Should a teacher that is teaching a foreign language speak in its native language? Why? Why not? I mean, this is a huge discussion. But what this chapter says is that we shall not be afraid of using it. We have to use our native tongue, in this case Spanish, in order to explain some little things, to give them some little details, and for example, giving them very clear and understandable explanations about some topics. For example, I don't know, I want them to do a very, very, very complicated and elaborate work. So I can just switch to Spanish and say, hey muchachos, la clase de hoy lo que vamos a hacer para que no se me pierdan es esto, 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 esto y esto. But remember that we don't have to lose our focus. Our focus is the native language. Yeah? So we have to focus on that foreign language in order to, yes, give them the information that they need because again, this is a foreign language class. What else? Creating the lesson stages. So this chapter was kind of like saying the obvious, at least for me, because we've been having various semesters that are saying us why we need to create lesson stages. This is fundamental for us, and we must differentiate the different stages and parts of the class that we have, because in that way we can control what we're doing, we can control what the students are doing, and we can have a general overview and like a more controlled environment in the classroom. Okay? So when we know that the warm-up is already finished, we know that the students are supposed to behave in this way or in that way, and we're going to have like a north, you know? You're going to have a way and a path to follow in order to have a successful class. Another very interesting topic about the chapter is the different seating assignments that we have in classroom. So even when we were at school, it used to happen, right? That the teacher used to separate the classroom in various ways. We had horseshoes, circles, the ordered rows, separate tables, and each part, I mean each type of assignment of arrangement of the seats, it has a purpose, okay? So for example, when we have the orderly rows, that's useful because we can have all the attention of the students and we can control what they're doing. So if, for example, I'm talking about some grammar topic that is very complicated and I need the attention, I can use the orderly rows to explain that topic. But if I want my students to do some like group work, I cannot just leave the orderly rows as they are. We need to create some separate tables. So the students can gather in little groups and work themselves in their, like, let's say, little worksheets or whatever we're working with. And yeah, for example, the orderly rows gives order. The separate tables gives a more free environment where the students are linked to each other. The horseshoe, for example, we've used it for 1,000 times. And it is very useful because even though it creates a environment of confidence. It did not allow the students to lose their focus of the class. So it's a very good tool. It's similar to the circle, but in the circle we're all in the same condition. There's no teacher when we're in a circle. We're all human beings. However, in a horseshoe, we do have a focus and we do have the focus of the teacher. And we also have the solo work, which is kind of similar to the separate tables, but each person is in its own seat, you know? And this is a very linked topic to the seats, and it is the groupings of the students. How can we create groups in order to work with our students? So basically we have four methods for those groups: the individual, the pairs, the groups, and the whole class. So the individual work is very good and it's very useful because it allows the students to, well, control their own learning and follow their own path and their own pace, you know? The pair working is very useful when, for example, you have a very advanced student and a very unadvanced student, and you want to match them so they can, like, yes, go ahead and help each other, solving questions, creating different scenarios with them. Okay, we use the groups when we want to create like some communication, and when we try to increase or awake the interest of the student to talk to each other, you know, because they are in short groups and they have the ability or they have the option to speak if there are 5 people, 4 people. However, when we are in the whole class, we cannot do that because the class is much higher and the environment is much uncontrolled. So we do have to take care of that portion and, yep, I mean, control those opportunities. So that's about the teaching methods, that's about managing the classroom, and I hope that you find this video very, very interesting and very helpful, of course. Okay, thank you guys, this is all for today. And again, I hope you learned something and have fun with us. Bye bye.